What's good, peeps? It's your boy Has P bringing you another dosage of positive vibes. So what's good, tribe? Today I'm going to do a Q&A session where I answer some of the questions that you, my supporters, have asked me either through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram. Like I've said before, I believe it's important that those of us with any invisible illness be open and share our stories so that those who suffer from the same or similar disease can feel validated in what they're going through, and hopefully feel less alone too. So if any of you have any questions or want to hear any more IBS related stories in regards to any aspect of my life, then please feel free to drop down a question or suggestion in the comment section below. Alright, so without further ado, here's the first question. Alright, so this question is from James, and his question is, what is something new you've learned about IBS recently? Well, I've been reading a book called Reclaim Your Life from IBS by Melissa G. Hunt, which was recommended to me by one of my supporters. Big shout out to Victoria. And one of the topics in the book that I've been stuck on for a while now is visceral hypersensitivity. Now, I'm not an expert on the topic, but when one suffers from visceral hypersensitivity, they have an oversensitivity to gut stimulation. So for instance, for those of us who suffer from IBS and visceral hypersensitivity, a gas bubble or waste flowing through the intestines can feel like a knife is slicing our insides out. However, for average healthy people, a gas bubble might just feel like a painless faint vibration, and they might hear a little rumble in their stomach, but that's all. So those of us with IBS can't help the fact that our bodies overreact to normal activity in our gut. We cannot help that we feel intense pain when something is flowing through our intestines. That's just part of the dysfunction between our brain and gut connection. So I think it's very important that those of us with IBS do our proper research on visceral hypersensitivity and find ways to manage it. Alright, so this next question is from Chris, and he asked, do you ever tell people about your IBS and they still never understand? Well, yes, I have told people about my condition and they still couldn't grasp how serious of a disease IBS is for me. And I could blame that on a couple of things. It could be that they just didn't care enough to comprehend the seriousness of my condition and how it affects my everyday life. Or maybe I just didn't do a good job at explaining or articulating my condition, so therefore it's up to me to keep trying to articulate my struggles until they have a better understanding of what I go through. Nonetheless, I believe it's up to us to take ourselves more serious than anyone else. For years, all I wanted was people to believe my invisible pain and to take me seriously. But then I realized not everyone is going to understand my situation because not everyone deals with debilitating pain on a daily basis and have to be near a toilet damn near 24/7. It took me a while to get it, but I also realized that I just needed to surround myself around people who truly do get it and not try to force people like certain family members and friends to believe me, especially when they've never had to deal with a condition like this before. Just gotta have faith that one day that those important people who don't get your IBS will come around. What's more important is that I take care of me by putting my overall health first. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of selfishness. Alright, so the next question is from Michelle. She asked, how long did it take you to finally be able to manage your IBS? So I wouldn't say I'm finally able to manage it because I'm still learning how to deal as time goes on. However, I've had IBS for over 8 years now. So I can definitely and obviously say that I have a better handle on my condition now than I ever did in the beginning. So for me, I would do my proper research, of course, and then I would experiment with different diets and exercises just so that I could find a regimen or strategy that works best for me and my condition. And by the way, exercises can be either physical or mental. And with that being said, I believe what might work for one might not necessarily work for all. So the individual has to be willing enough to experiment with harmless remedies, whether dietary or exercise, just to figure out what works best for them. Alright, and now for the last question. This question is from Danielle, and she asked, what is the worst part of dealing with IBS? You know, that's a great question. The worst part for me is when I have to deal with intense stress and anxiety. These two emotional states can easily and drastically trigger my IBS symptoms, very much to a point where I feel incapacitated, and therefore I feel incapable of doing anything like going to work, a family function, or even going on a date with my wife. What I want and hope people understand is that stress is not just a psychological response, it's also a biological response to a stressor or threat. And because IBS is so complicated, a stressor can literally be stress. I've learned this from experience, but also from the book that I've mentioned earlier, Reclaim Your Life from IBS by Melissa G. Hunt. So for those of us with irritable bowel syndrome and inflammatory bowel disease, we tend to feel the biological response of stress at a higher level than average healthy people. This is part of the dysfunction between our brain and gut connection, and therefore it's just something we cannot help. We deal with intense amount of pain in our guts as a result of stress. Now, I'm not a master of the mind just yet, but this is why I believe it's important for those of us with IBS to focus on our mental health, if not more than at least just as much as our physical health. Because if the mind is stronger than the body, then dealing with life's obstacles will be easier to face as you gain more experience and as time goes on. So I do believe stress and anxiety are the worst parts of dealing with IBS, simply because the biological response is very intense and painful. However, it forces me to strengthen my mind and become more self-aware. See? Take the positive out the negative, baby. Alright peeps, well that's all I have for you today. I hope you guys took something from this Q&A. Again, please feel free to drop down any suggestions or any questions you have, and I'll be more than happy to do another Q&A video. I'm always willing to share my story and anything new that I've learned about IBS to anyone who's willing to listen. Alright, so there you have it peeps. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And remember, be surrounded by nothing but positive vibes. Peace.